I have the backing loaded on the machine. I have a lightweight stabilizer that is a woven stabilizer, non-woven stabilizer. I have batting and I have my pillow top fabric all loaded and basted, and I'm going to stitch the background of the pillow top and of the pillow back. I've also put some side tension on that is very even and consistent. As you're doing a lot of embroidery and building up a lot of stitches, you want control of your side. Okay, we've stitched the background on the pillow top and the pillow back, and I just want you to make a note of the little tick lines that I've put into the pattern. You're going to line up the next step with those little lines. I've brought my arrow border patterns in place and have dropped 4 of them onto the screen. I think what I'll do is I'll build that to where it's all one file for you. You can see if I move it over that it lines up with the tick mark that I just showed you in the other shot. I'm going to switch the back of my computer, the white box, to the embroidery mode, and I'm going to go ahead and let these stitch out. Okay, so on the screen I'm going to show you how you can pick a letter for your monogram pillow. And what we're going to do is go up here to the draw menu, and here is the fonts and letter size. So we are going to do a letter B. And I'm going to pick, it'd be nice if we had previews of these so you could see what they look like, but I'm going to pick this Harrington and say create text, and it's put it down here on my screen. So I'm going to use Stretchy Man now, the transform tool, and bring that up and size it inside my arrows, making sure that my maintain ratio is on. So you can get that to whatever size you want. I'm actually going to do a font that I brought in from another system. And so I just wanted to show you how you can pick one and how you can size it. So I'll delete that. We're going to do this font. And I'm going to use a laser cut one, but I'll show you how you can also get the pattern transferred onto your fusible. So that is looking good to me. And I'm going to go back over the sew head. Okay, so the next step is that we're going to applique the letter onto the monogram pillow. And you have 2 choices here. One choice is that you send the file to a laser cutter or a cutting system and cut it out there. And I recommend that when you do that, you add like a 1/16 of an inch offset. You need the applique piece of fabric just slightly larger than your file, your vector file, just because of the padding in the quilt. You lose a little bit of space on that. So we put in that offset. There's another way that you can prepare your fusible and your pattern. I'm going to show you that next. The 2 options, the laser cut one and then preparing a pattern using the letter that you chose, is the second option. This is a heat and bond light. That's the fusible I prefer to work with on the long arm. And I've got it paper side to the top of the pillow, the rough side facing up, because you need this image reversed. And I've pinned it in place just to stabilize it. And I'm going to go to my main screen and my setup, and I'm going to turn my thread break sensor off. It's actually off since the latest release of the software, but you might have to zero that out. And then I'm going to unthread my machine. You can wrap the thread around the handle several times, but you want to make sure that's secured and it doesn't get sucked into the machine. I'm going to now let that letter be stitched, so it's going to perforate the paper, and that way we can iron it on the back and have a pattern. So I'm ready to do the letter B to get my pattern, and I have switched back over to the basting quilting mode, the B mode, and so I'm going to go ahead and let this stitch out. Okay, that's done, and now what I'll do is I'll iron this onto the back of my applique fabric. And when you cut it out, what you're going to want to do is cut just outside that perforated line. You need that little extra bit of fabric as you're putting it in place to make sure that your stitches are going to cover the edge of that. So this is the rough cut fusible, and you would iron that onto the back of your fabric and then just cut just outside that line, like a 1/16 of an inch outside that line, and you're going to end up with the same thing that we have from the laser cutter. You also can see on here, hopefully, that the perforations are showing, so those become my placement line. You can put thread in the machine and let that stitch again if you want a thread outline on it, but that's going to be enough for me to put this in position, and so that will be my next step. Okay, I'm going to peel the paper off my applique. This can be a little staticky, so it'd probably be a really good idea before you touch your machine if you ground yourself on metal on the frame someplace. So there's that. And then I use a water-soluble glue stick just from an office supply. And I'm going to go in and put that glue everywhere that the fabric's going to cover. Try to get close to the stitching lines if you can. What you don't want to do is push very hard on here because you don't want to shift this out of position. So I'm pushing lightly. You can also position the machine and actually push against the throat of the machine if you need to, if that would be easier. You just don't want to shove it out of position. Okay, so the next thing is I'm going to go ahead and glue this in place, and then we'll get ready to stitch it down. Okay, back to my bee on the screen. I'm going to use the apply function, which is a really fun part of this program. And when you click on that button, this list comes up. And there's some pre-programmed stitches in here, but you can really have fun editing these and creating your own. I'm going to actually, I think, use an existing stitch. Maybe let's try this one. So as soon as you click that, it applies it to your pattern. If you want to edit it, then you can select it again. Where did it go? And say Edit Motif, and it takes you to a different screen, and you can play around with this. I think I want this stitch to be a little bit larger, so I'm going to come in here and change the motif size to, let's say, 1.5. So that's 1.5 times bigger than what it was. The start and the end are going to be locked in place. You can't move those at all. I'm going to scroll down and pick the one that we're interested in. So let's do the same thing, increase it in size. And I think I'll be happy with that. But if you want to, you can come in here and start playing around with moving these. Let's maybe just try this. And you get previews up here at the top as to what that's going to look like as you're working on it. I'm just going to kind of play with that just to see. That's kind of cool. So now if you save this as an overwrite, when you do your next software download, then it's going to, the software download will put the original one back in place. So you can save this as a new one. So let's say save new, and let's call this, I don't know, what should we call it? Triple stitch, and save new. So that's going to remain there when I do software updates now. So we'll say close, and this is the look we're going to get, which is kind of cool. A little bit of a checkerboard appearance. Although it doesn't look like, it looks like it used the original one. Where's my adapted one? Down here at triple stitch. Right there. It kept the original one too. We don't want to do that. I think I like the original one better. This one's looking a little spiky. So Control Z undoes that, and let's go back up to the straight one. Yeah, I like how this looks. So I'm going to select that. You can see that it goes off. Your original line is right in between. So this will catch the edges if I'm a little bit short. So I'm going to stitch that out next. Now we're ready to let this apply stitch down the applique. And I have switched back over to the embroidery mode on the back of the machine. So I'm going to just let this start. Okay, the next step is I'm going to bring this pattern on. It's a PAT pattern, and I've designed it with a start line that you will line up at the, you can hear my dog there, line up the actual pattern itself to the corner of the outside stitching line, and that will center it properly. And then you're going to use your split icon and come in and accept that, and then get rid of this line, and you're ready to stitch this out. This stitches out in 3 steps. The first one is sort of the ribbons, the second one is the leaves, and then the third is the flowers, so you can choose the colors you want for that. I'm going to go ahead and get that started stitching.